Jonathan Smith Show on Indie Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indie Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome into the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indie Sports Ticket. Hopefully you're having a nice start to your week. Hopefully you had a good weekend as well. Thanks for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indie Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe watching on Twitter, _ Jonathan Smith, if you want to follow me there. Maybe you're listening via the Indie Sports Ticket app, but you can download wherever you find your apps. And if you want even more from me, go check out the My Take Is YouTube page. Your Indiana Pacers take a one-game lead, or they take game one to take a 1-0 series lead over the Cleveland Cavaliers yesterday. The NBA playoffs are the best. They are. I've had such a good time watching all these games. Obviously, game one between Cavaliers and Pacers was outstanding. Game 7 between the Rockets and Warriors was pretty fantastic as well. But I want to start with our guy, our star here in Indiana, Tyrese Haliburton. He was awesome in game one. Played just the perfect game. 22 points, 13 assists, a combined 4 steals/blocks. And I love the way he did it. This was not Tyrese Haliburton got hot and shot 6 of 11 from 3. That is not what this was. He got into the lane. He finished at the rim. He hit some mid-range jumpers. He isolated on dudes and went by him. It was great. He took 15 shots. Only 6 of them were threes. That's, probably about the right number for him. He hit that magic number, 20 points. Your Indiana Pacers are now 27-3 when Tyrese Haliburton scores 20 points or more. When this dude's aggressive and he's getting to the bucket and he's putting the ball in the bucket, Pacers are a pretty freaking tough team to beat. And I like that he was aggressive from the jump. I think that it was communicated to him very well that in order for the Pacers to win this series, he has to score the basketball. Because of all the things that happened in game one, one of the most obvious things was the Cavaliers don't have anyone to guard that man. They don't have anyone. And it was clear from the jump because he just scored 7 points. He had a 3, and he had a pull-up mid-range jumper, and he got to the rim at pretty much at will. The Cavaliers don't have anyone who can guard him. Max Strus probably did the best job, but I wasn't shaking in my boots. I wasn't like, oh, no. Max Strus. Come on. I mean, Max Strus, probably did the best just because he's bigger than Isaac Okoro, who also got some minutes on him. But like I said, not really concerned if Max Strus is going to be the primary defender on Haliburton all series. In terms of just matchups, I found it interesting that the Cavaliers decided to put Jared Allen on Pascal Siakam and Evan Mobley on Miles Turner. Like, that allowed the Pacers to run their screen and roll stuff with Siakam and Haliburton, which I think they would rather do that than run it with Miles Turner, because sometimes when Miles Turner catches the ball and he's not just going into a shot, whether it's a layup, a dunk, or a 3, he can struggle to make some of those decisions kind of in the middle of the defense. Whereas with Siakam, when he catches the ball, I'm very comfortable with whatever choice he decides to make. And obviously he can shoot it and he can finish very well at the rim. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, we're going to get a lot of Pascal Siakam, Tyrese Haliburton screen and rolls in this game, because those are the Pacers' 2 best players. And when games are close down the stretch, that's something that they go to relatively often. And so as soon as that happened, I was like, all right, like, they're picking on Jared Allen. And it's not an indictment on Jared Allen and his ability to play defense. Like, he's a very good defender. The thing is, like, you don't want to go at Evan Mobley on you don't want that guy to defend your screen and roll. So, you just want to stay away from that dude. And when the Cavaliers decided to switch ball screens, which they did a little bit, I thought Tyrese Haliburton did an excellent job of attacking when Jared Allen was defending him. That is an incredibly favorable matchup. He had a big step back 3 late over Allen with about, 6 minutes left. That gave them the lead. Later he had the drive where he spun underneath him. a nice little up and under move, and he got a layup. Okay. And by the way, after that three, it sparked a 9-2 run. Okay. You didn't have, the Pacers didn't surrender the lead after they took it there with about 6 minutes left to go. In that fourth quarter, during that run, you had the Andrew Nembhard grenade three from 35 feet away. That was awesome. He was really good as well. I'll talk more about him here in a second, but here is Pacers head coach Rick Carlisle talking about Tyrese Haliburton and his performance in game one.
Well, I mean, these teams are great teams to watch because they're defined by their balance. And so, Cleveland's had situations all year where they've had 6-7 guys consistently in double figures. They needed it to have their season. We needed it to get where we got to. And so it's one of the things that I think makes this a good series to watch for basketball purists. It's two unselfish teams. And then look, Ty at the end of the game, he made some huge plays. I mean, the first three that he hit on Allen, it's a tough shot, it's contested, but he makes it. And then, I don't remember the exact sequence, but then the step through scoop was a big play. But the bigger plays were the two stops that he was able to get one-on-one. And, those are enormous plays.
Coach Carlisle right there discussing Tyrese Haliburton and just how great he was in that game. The thing about Haliburton, yes, like he was great getting into the lane and spraying out to shooters, and he didn't turn the ball over very much. And, he hit a couple threes, and he was hitting the pull-up from the mid-range, and he hit a couple tough floaters, and it was good. The offense was amazing. He also played the best defense I've ever seen him play, period. As great as he was on offense, he was every bit as good on the defensive end of the floor. He got switched onto Donovan Mitchell a few times. He had to defend Ty Jerome multiple times as well, and he held up. He did an excellent job holding up. He just competed his butt off. That's what he did. Because look, he's not dumb. Like they knew going into the series that they were going to try to get Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland whenever he comes back, and Ty Jerome isolated on Tyrese Haliburton. And in order for the Pacers to win this series, Tyrese Haliburton is going to have to continue to answer the bell whenever he's, on an island having to defend these guys. And he did in game one. He did a really good job of just making Donovan Mitchell take tough shots. He had 3 blocks in this game. Ty Jerome kept trying to go at him, but Haliburton held up. 2 of his 3 blocks came on those Ty Jerome floaters. The third one came on a Max Strus 3. Yes, Haliburton was great on offense, and the Pacers obviously have to have that from him because he is the engine that makes the offense go. But he was also great on defense. He was every bit as great on the defensive end of the floor as he was on offense, and Tyrese Haliburton was asked after the game about his defense and why he had so much success.
Well, yeah, I mean, we knew they were going to go to that at the end of the game, as a lot of teams do, just trying to be solid and help the team win. Obviously, Coach Carlisle and the staff have really been on me to, take a step on that end of the floor. And, I'm just trying to be solid, and they got a lot of great players, a lot of great one-on-one guys. So I'm just trying to make it tough and just be solid. That's my biggest thing, is just trying to be solid, not gamble, not foul if I don't have to, and just trying to be solid. But our coaching staff did a great job of challenging me, especially down the stretch there in the game. They knew what was coming, and I just tried to respond the best way I could. But it's just one game, so we're gonna have to be ready to respond in a couple days.
Tyrese Haliburton right there talking about his defense last night. Just an incredible performance from him, and an incredible performance from Andrew Nembhard as well, and really just the rest of this Pacers team. And the Cavaliers are going to continue to go at Tyrese Haliburton. The Celtics did it to him last year. The Cavaliers, they're going to try it again this year. And if Haliburton defends the way that he did last night, he just gives the Pacers a chance to get a stop, then the Pacers are going to have a great chance to win this series. He is clearly improved on that side of the ball, and I feel like I've harped on this a fairly decent amount during the playoffs. But Like we saw it in that previous series. Like he's just competing at a different level, and he's really smart, and he's just always in the right place. And when you're 6'5", 6'6", and you have long arms, and you're just where you're supposed to be, then you're going to have an impact on the defensive side of the ball. Okay, and hopefully we continue to see that impact from Tyrese Haliburton throughout this series, because the Cavaliers are going to continue to isolate him. They're going to continue to put him in screens. They're going to make him defend the roller or the fader, or, if the Pacers decide to switch, then he's going to have to guard on the ball. And if he continues to be as resilient and as tough as he was last night, then the Pacers are going to have an excellent chance to win the game. He was exactly who the Pacers needed him to be. He was the engine of the offense. He got easy shots for other guys. He got easy shots for himself, and he played good defense. Donovan Mitchell was good for the Cavaliers last night. If you look at the box score, that's what you're going to say. You're going to say, oh, he scored 33 points and all this kind of stuff. It's great. It took him 30 shots to get there. Haliburton, much more efficient. I thought Haliburton was better defensively than Mitchell was. I thought he got his teammates easier shots than Donovan Mitchell did. He was the best player on the floor in game one. Tyrese Haliburton was. And hopefully we see more of that tomorrow night, because the Pacers are going to need him to be that guy if they're going to win this series. Speaking of Donovan Mitchell and his struggles last night, I thought Andrew Nembhard was amazing. Andrew Nembhard just always makes plays in big games. Playoff Nembhard might be a thing. Okay, it's a bit of a cliche thing now. Like we started calling Jimmy Butler playoff Jimmy, and now anyone who has like a kind of good performance in the playoffs, we just put the word playoff in front of them. Playoff Nembhard might be a thing. Might be a thing. Okay, he was really good. Shout out to Eddie White for this stat. On a minimum of 10 attempts from three, it was tied for Donovan Mitchell's worst three-point shooting night of his career, regular season or playoffs, and it was his worst playoff shooting night. It was his worst playoff shooting night from three in his career. And a lot of that has to do with Andrew Nembhard and how well he defended. I've said this throughout the season. Andrew Nembhard is one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA. He is. Like, the fact that he's not going to make an all defensive team is criminal, because he's just done nothing but play outstanding defense on the perimeter all year long. And offensively last night, he was every bit as impactful. I thought he did a great job of just running the offense, keeping the pace up. Because whenever Cleveland would score, the Pacers would inbound the ball quickly and just run it back, like right back down their throat. And the Cavaliers' adjustment to that was they just latched onto Haliburton as soon as they scored. And the Pacers were like, that's fine. Where's Nembhard? And he would get it, and he would sprint up the floor. And I mean, look, the guy was one of the best point guards in all of college basketball a few years ago. So this guy knows how to run an offense. He knows how to keep the pace moving. And that's exactly what he did. He's also shooting the ball extremely well to start the playoffs. He only shot 29% from three during the regular season, but the dude was 5 of 6 from three last night. And he was 7 of 10 from the floor overall. And man, that big 35-foot bomb that he threw up at the end of the shot clock was really big during that Pacers 9-2 run that gave them some separation from Cleveland with less than 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. It just feels like every time the Pacers need something good to happen, Andrew Nembhard is in the middle of it. He seems to have an impact on whatever it is, whether that's making a big shot, getting into the lane, and then kicking it out to someone else who then hits a big shot, but especially on defense. He seems to always be in the middle of it defensively. He did a great job defending Donovan Mitchell. Yes, 33 points is a lot. But when it takes you 30 shots to get there, it's just not nearly as impressive. Only 1 of 11 from three. And that is a testament to Andrew Nembhard and his improvement on that end of the floor. Like, he was a good defender last year, but he's kind of moved into that next level. He's one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA. You're going to be hard-pressed to find anyone who guards better than that dude. And he showed that last night with the way that he defended Donovan Mitchell. Then again, this is just thinking ahead, not trying to take away from what Andrew Nembhard did. when Darius Garland comes back, it's going to be interesting to see how the Pacers shift their defense. Because obviously, look, Darius Garland, like, that dude's an all-star. That dude is incredibly quick. He's shooting 40% from three on the year, runs the offense well, is great in the screen and roll. So this is a big game for the Pacers to grab with Garland not playing. And hopefully Darius Garland doesn't play in game 2. And hopefully the Pacers can go up 2-0 and can come back home in game 3. So if Garland doesn't play at all in this series, which I doubt, he's probably going to come back here at some point, then the Pacers are going to win this series. Game 2 is going to be an absolute war. Here is Rick Carlisle talking about the win last night, but also how tough game 2 is going to be.
We've got to stay hungry. I mean, I haven't heard many people that have gave us a chance in this series, so we got to use that as some level of motivation, but we know what we're capable of. Game 2 will be exceptionally hard with, them dropping game 1, this building the way it is, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to have to be ready, but our mindset has got to be, we've got to keep attacking.
Rick Carlisle right there talking about game 2 and how they just have to keep attacking and pushing. Because if you're going to beat the Cavaliers, you have to score the basketball at an incredibly high level. Pacers did it last night, 121-112. Honestly, given the pace of that game, the fact that the Pacers only gave up 112 points is really surprising. It felt like, the Cavaliers took 98 shots. 98 shots. Pacers only took 83 shots. That's not good. And so the fact that the Cavaliers only scored 112 points on 98 shots is really surprising. It is a testament to the defense, and the Pacers putting up 121 just speaks to how they played the game the way that they wanted to. They dictated the pace. More on that when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
fits in today's sports world. It's here. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Jared Dubin of Last Night in Basketball.com is set to join the show coming up at 11, where we'll talk Pacers Cavs Game 1 and get you ready for the rest of the Round 2 NBA playoff series. And Game 1 last night was just amazing. For the game itself, without focusing on any specific player, that just felt like a Pacer game. They ran the whole time. After both makes and after misses, they just got the ball up the floor so quickly. And there was such a dedication to it. Like there were times where, the Cavaliers were just like latching on to Haliburton after makes. There's one time like they had Miles Turner bring it up. They're like they were just so dedicated to just ramping up the pace of that game. And I thought that was the biggest theme that really jumped out to me. And the Cavaliers, look, they have been the best offensive team in the NBA all year. The Cavaliers are clearly very capable of playing at that breakneck pace. But that pace clearly favors the Pacers. The Cavaliers' half-court offense is better than the Pacers. Not to say that the Pacers' half-court offense is bad. It's very good. Okay? But once again, there's a reason why the Cavaliers had the number 1 ranked offense in the NBA. They're going to be better in a half-court style game than the Pacers. And that's not the real reason, though, why the Cavaliers should want to slow this down and why the Pacers should want to continue to play these games at such a fast pace. The real reason why the Cavaliers should want to play slower is because it lets them set their defense, obviously. But when they set their defense, it allows for Evan Mobley to be in every defensive play possible. This guy is the Defensive Player of the Year. He's an incredible player. Okay, he's awesome. All right? And obviously, it's hard for him to make plays if the Pacers are laying the ball in before he's crossed the half-court line. I didn't notice Evan Mobley's impact on the defensive end of the floor in Game 1. And that's because of the pace at which the Indiana Pacers play. Okay, and if the games continue to be this fast, then the Pacers are going to have a great chance to win games. Okay, now with that being said, Evan Mobley offensively, pretty freaking good. 20 points, 9 of 13 from the field, 2 of 5 from 3. Also had 10 boards. He did turn it over 4 times, though. That's great for us. All right. Defensively, I think we learned a little bit about how the Pacers view some of these different Cavalier players. Like, yes, Evan Mobley shot 37% from 3 on the year, but they just left that dude open. They're like, you know what, Evan? You take 5 threes a night. That's fine. We'll live with it. Because, yes, he shot 37% from 3 during the regular season, but a lot of those shots came from the corner. And you saw that there's a little more urgency in the Pacers' closeouts whenever Evan Mobley was taking a 3 from the corner versus the wing or straight away. But you could tell they didn't mind Evan Mobley or Isaac Okoro shooting 3s. I know that the Pacers gave up 70 paint points. It kind of felt like that was part of their strategy, though. They just seemed very committed to running the Cavaliers off the 3-point line. Donovan Mitchell and Max Strus were really the only 2 players for the Cavaliers who got up a high amount of 3s. And a lot of them weren't catch and shoot, especially for Donovan Mitchell. It felt like every catch and shoot opportunity for the Cavaliers was met with a very aggressive closeout. And when you look at Donovan Mitchell, 8 of his 11 threes came off the bounce. He only had 3 catch-and-shoot three-point attempts. One of them was blocked. That was the one where there was, the offensive rebound, and Aaron Nesmith had leaked out, and then he ran back into the play, and he blocked the Donovan Mitchell 3 from behind. So he only got 2 clean looks off of catch-and-shoot threes, and he made one of them. That's the only one he made. So I thought that the Pacers did a good job of closing out well. I think another thing to really keep an eye on going into game 2 is the Pacers went small to close the first half, and it had a lot of success. They played Obi Toppin and Pascal Siakam at the 4 and the 5. That was to counter the Cavaliers going small with Evan Mobley playing center and no Jared Allen on the floor. And with that lineup, man, like the pace just kept up. They ran a ton. Both of those guys are very good rebounders. Okay, so it was a very nice counter to the Cavaliers going a little bit smaller. The last thing that I noticed, though, Pascal Siakam is going to be really good in this series. He's going to be better in this series than he was against the Bucks. Part of that is that he's no longer having to expend so much energy defending Giannis. Like, yes, he's going to have to probably switch back and forth between defending Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. Both very good offensive players, both guys bigger than Pascal Siakam. But certainly I don't have to explain to you the difference between defending Giannis and defending Evan Mobley, okay? Giannis is just running through your chest for 48 minutes. Evan Mobley, a little more finesse than that, although I thought he was really strong with the ball in game 1. So in addition to that, if the Cavaliers continue to put Jared Allen on him, then he's going to continue to have a favorable matchup. He got so many good looks in game 1. So many good looks. Okay, a few of them coming from 3. He was 2 of 5 from 3. But man, like just working that screen and roll or screen and pop, depending on how they want to do it. If it continues to be Jared Allen, then Pascal Siakam is going to continue to get a lot of good looks. He didn't shoot the ball great. He was only 6 of 15 from the field. If the Cavaliers continue to want to switch on the ball, then Pascal Siakam is going to have Ty Jerome on him on the block, and that is obviously a very favorable matchup for Pascal Siakam. So I expect for him to have a big series if Cleveland continues to be a switch happy and if they continue to put Jared Allen on him in this series. The other thing, Pacers had a very good Pacers game. 6 players in double figures, and Obi Toppin and TJ McConnell each had 7. Obi Toppin only scored 7 points, but he was probably their best bench player. Just the way that he only played 15 minutes, but he rebounded well. He made shots, finished at the rim. He didn't try to do too much. Meanwhile, Benedict Mathurin was probably their most important bench player. He just hit a couple really big threes. I thought he defended well. He didn't take a free throw, which is really a crime because those refs, man, felt very one-sided in that game. But yeah, he was really good off the bench as well. He was the 6th guy in double figures. Okay, so I'm very intrigued to kind of see how game 2 goes because there were a couple of things that happened in game 1 that I just don't think are going to happen again. Pacers turned the ball over 17 times. I think that's very uncharacteristic of them. I don't expect for them to do that again. The Cavaliers aren't going to win the turnover battle by 9. Like that's not going to continue to happen. And I also don't expect for the Pacers to continue to shoot 52% from 3 like they did in game 1. And I also don't expect for the Pacers to make 10 more threes than the Cavaliers. There was such a commitment to running Cleveland off the 3-point line, or they didn't really run them off the line because Cleveland still took 38 threes, but there was such a commitment to these aggressive closeouts because the Cavaliers have been the best 3-point shooting team in the NBA this year. Okay, so this is going to be a great series. I expect for the Pacers to clean up the turnovers. They're going to have to continue to do that because they're going to continue to allow the Cavaliers to take 15 more shots than them. Then this is going to be a tough series to win. So I expect for that to be cleaned up, and I also expect for Cleveland to just shoot the ball better than what they did in game 1. This series is going to be amazing, though. When James Naismith created the game of basketball, I think this is what he pictured. The game is fast-paced. It's up and down. The ball is moving. But teams are playing together. Okay, like the Boston Celtics are going to play the New York Knicks tonight. And you're going to just if you watch, you should, because it's going to be a lot of fun. But like, watch that game and then just think about what Pacers and Cavs looked like in game one. They're going to look like two completely different sports. Okay, if there's ever been an argument, which there's plenty, if there's ever going to be an argument, against every NBA team plays the same, it's like, watch Cleveland and Indiana, and then watch the Knicks play Boston. You're getting two completely different products, and I'm very excited to talk about Jared. I'm very excited to talk to Jared Dubin about that coming up at 11. So the game last night was beautiful. It was so much fun to watch. I'm sitting on the couch, and I'm smiling. I don't even realize it. And my wife was like, Jonathan, like why are you smiling like that? I was just like, because this is so much fun to watch, just the ball movement and just the togetherness of everything that was going on. And you can just tell that both the Pacers and the Cavaliers really trust their depth. Coaches say that all the time because they're never going to come out and be like, yeah, no, these guys suck. They're not going to do that. Coach Carlisle, in his post-game presser, he talks about how like they need their depth in order to win the series. And in Cleveland, they're the exact same way. Like, both teams have to have their depth show up and be impactful if they're going to win games. And it just speaks to the trust that these teams have in one another. For the Cavaliers, a lot of that trust is going to fall on, DeAndre Hunter and Ty Jerome to come in off the bench and really score. Ty Jerome had 21. Didn't feel like it, though. He also had 8 assists. He was really good for Cleveland off the bench. But this series is going to be awesome. I can't wait for it to continue. Something that I can wait for and hope doesn't happen is Anthony Leal has apparently applied for a 6th year of eligibility. Hey, man, everyone should try to pick up a 6th year of eligibility. Like, seriously. I mean, they're just giving out all these extra years. So good for Anthony Leal. I hope he does. I hope if he gets it. Actually, no. I hope he gets it, because playing college basketball, playing any college sport, it is an absolute privilege, and it is an absolute joy to get to do that. With that being said, I hope he doesn't take one of the spots on Indiana's roster if this is going to be the case. So, very excited for the rest of this Pacers and Cavaliers series. Very excited to talk to Jared Dubin about it at 11 o'clock. So that's coming up here in about 25 minutes. And yeah, it's going to be great. When we come back here in about 4 minutes, we're going to talk about the rest of these NBA playoff series. I just want to get my predictions in before Jared Dubin comes on. So we're talking Timberwolves and Warriors. And then tonight we've got two great games lined up between the Knicks and Celtics and the Thunder and the Nuggets. We're getting into all that when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
It may, one day, be a must-listen for sports enthusiasts.
Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt.
Uh-oh. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hopefully you're having a nice start to your week. Hopefully you had the opportunity to enjoy that Pacers win over the Cavaliers in Game 1. We got more NBA playoff basketball going on. Oh, yeah. More games tonight. Jared Dubin is going to join me here in about 20 minutes to talk about some of these other series. And let's start with Knicks Celtics. Give me the Celtics in 5. The Knicks just don't have the depth to deal with the Celtics. Okay. Also, the Knicks, not very good against good teams this year. Didn't have a win over the Cavaliers, Celtics, or Thunder, the probably 3 best teams in the NBA. The Knicks also had a losing record against teams over 500 this season. Like, the Knicks have just struggled to beat good teams. They played a good team in the Detroit Pistons, and they were a correct call on that Tim Hardaway Jr. game winner in Game 4 from being in legitimate trouble in that series. The Celtics, unlike the Detroit Pistons, aren't going to give away fourth quarter leads in what felt like every game of that series. Also, the Celtics have the best player in the series in Jason Tatum. Kristaps Porzingis is a tough matchup for Karl Anthony Towns. And the Celtics love to matchup hunt. They're going to run pick and roll on Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns the whole series. And they're going to get them defending Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, or they're going to get Kristaps Porzingis isolated right there at the elbow, and he's going to turn. He's just going to shoot the ball over Jalen Brunson. And the Celtics are going to get a good shot every time that happens. And then when Brunson or Towns goes to the bench, the Celtics will pick on Campaign, Miles McBride, or Mitchell Robinson. There's just too many defensive liabilities for the Knicks to stop the Celtics in this series. And meanwhile, the Celtics don't have any liabilities on the defensive end of the floor. Everyone they put on the court can defend, and they have more rim protection than the Knicks do. The only way the Knicks win this series is if someone important for the Celtics gets hurt. Okay, but if both teams stay healthy, then I think that the Boston Celtics take care of business pretty easily. Give me the Celtics in 5 over the New York Knicks. Thunder, Nuggets, that is the other game going on tonight. And this series features the 2 best players in the NBA this season. You got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Nikola Jokic, who are both going to put on a show in their own ways. Both of those dudes are nothing short of absolutely outstanding on the offensive end of the floor. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to do it through scoring the ball like crazy. His playmaking is incredibly underrated, but the guy is a scorer at heart. He's going to own that area 12 to 17 feet away from the basket. He's going to take 8 to 14 free throws a night. He's the smoothest and slippiest player in the NBA. Okay, he's also got a burst that rivals any car with nitrous. I mean, the dude is just, and he's at the rim after going slow. The 0 to 60 on that dude is crazy. And then you have Nikola Jokic, who just looks like he's playing a video game. Just controls everything. And I actually think he's going to be better in this series than he was against the Clippers. Because Chet Holmgren is a really good basketball player. Isaiah Hartenstein, really good basketball player. I don't expect for either one of them, though, to put up as good of a defensive performance as Zubac did in that series for the Clippers. Also, James Harden, Game 7. Please tell me that you gambled against that guy. You should have. The issue for the Nuggets, though, and why they're going to lose this series, is the Thunder have just too many different players to put on Jamal Murray. He survived being defended by Chris Dunn, who's a good defender. With that being said, the Clippers are not as deep nor as good defensively as the Thunder guards are. This Thunder defense is just, it's overwhelming. You probably didn't see this, but there's a tweet out there of John Morant in that game, in I think like game 2. Cason Wallace gets subbed out, and there's this look of like relief on John Morant's face, and then he realizes that, oh crap, Alex Caruso just checked in, and it's just this look of dread, like crap, man, like now I got to deal with this dude, and it's going to be like that the entire series for Jamal Murray, and I expect for him to struggle a bit, and it's going to be near impossible for the Nuggets to win this series if he's not great. Meanwhile, the Nuggets don't really have any great defenders for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Aaron Gordon doesn't really have the foot speed to keep up with that dude. The Nuggets will probably stick him on Jalen Williams. That seems like the better matchup, but we'll see. I like the Thunder in 5. The Nuggets just don't have enough talent to keep up with the Oklahoma City Thunder. And then the series that starts tomorrow night, I believe. That sounds right. They should start tomorrow. Warriors and Timberwolves. Yes. Oh no, it's Tuesday. There we go. Yes, it does start tomorrow night. I got it. They're on TNT right after Pacers and Cavaliers game 2 tomorrow night. The Pacers are 9.5-point underdogs tomorrow night. That's insane. Anyway, Timberwolves, Warriors. This is another really tough series for the Warriors. I don't really know who I'm going to pick here. I'm leaning Golden State just because I'm not convinced that Julius Randle can put together back-to-back great series, because he was awesome against the Lakers. Like, the dude defended LeBron, rebounded at an incredibly high level, made really good decisions with the basketball, shot it well from 3. I mean, the dude he was everywhere, and he was awesome. But can he do it again? I'm not convinced. Also, I don't think we're getting another 20-20 game from Rudy Gobert for the rest of his life. Definitely not in the playoffs. And I'm just always going to have concerns about the Timberwolves' lack of shot creation outside of Anthony Edwards. Whereas with the Warriors, like, I know Draymond Green is going to get good looks for guys. I know Steph Curry is going to create good looks for other guys. I know Jimmy Butler is going to do the same thing. So I'm concerned about the Timberwolves in that regard. But then again, I'm concerned about the Warriors' lack of depth compared to the Timberwolves. And then I'm also like, I don't know. I don't think the Timberwolves defend as well as the Rockets do. You know, they're probably going to put Jaden McDaniels on Jimmy Butler, and then they'll probably put Anthony Edwards on Steph. I don't know. If I had to make a pick, I would probably just take the Warriors in 7, because I think Steph Curry is the best player in this series. Also kind of waiting on on playoff Jimmy. We haven't really seen that from him yet. I think he shows up in this series in a really big way because, as I said, the Rockets are throwing Tari Eason and Dylan Brooks and all these guys that are just really physical and tough defenders. And when I look at Minnesota, like, they've got good defenders, but I don't think they have any great ones. Also, I don't know. Like, I am very intrigued just to kind of see how that series plays out. I do know this. I do like Minnesota in game 1. I do. Because the Warriors are coming off of a really tough game 7 in Houston. They're getting on a plane. They're in Minnesota right now. And that's just a really tough, quick turnaround for an older Warriors team. Whereas, the Timberwolves have had this really long layoff. Maybe we get a crazy Steph game. That's very possible. And if that happens, then, good for the Warriors, and they'll have a chance to win game 1. But it really feels like that's the only way that happens. So I can't wait. Timberwolves and Warriors is going to be awesome. There's a little bit of drama there. I'll take you back to last year. They're playing pretty early in the season, and Draymond Green is at the foul line running his mouth at Anthony Edwards, and Anthony Edwards is just giving it right back to him. And so I think there's going to be a lot of trash talk, and it's going to be another really fun series. Round 2, just in general, feels very different than round 1. Like there was just so much animosity and just toughness in these first round series. Thunder and Grizzlies didn't really feel that way. But the Thunder are lucky because John Morant had them figured out. I still can't believe he said that. Nuggets Clippers was just a tough, hard fought series. A lot of complaining to the officials. Every game was incredibly intense and close. And Russell Westbrook wants revenge on the Clippers, and he did the whole they chose the wrong guy thing because the Clippers traded him to the Jazz and a sign and trade deal for Chris Dunn. Anyway, that's beside the point. So there was some tension there. Lakers and Timberwolves, a lot of tension there after what Luka did to, the Timberwolves last year in the playoffs. And Anthony Edwards, he's just going at everybody. So he's going right at LeBron. You had the whole thing where he and LeBron were shoving each other from half court all the way up to the mid post area. I don't think we're getting that in Timberwolves versus Warriors. We might, because it's Draymond Green and who really knows. So I think there's going to be a slight step down in that series. And Rockets Warriors, every game was incredibly intense. Those teams don't like each other. Very obvious. The Warriors have obviously had a lot of success in Houston. I know Houston fans hate Steph Curry and they hate Draymond Green. They can't stand those dudes because they just have a knack to walk into Houston in game sevens and win the series. So there was some tension there. You got some history of Draymond Green kicking Steven Adams, and he and Sengun have gotten into it multiple times. And you had the Draymond Green telling Jalen Green to go paint his fingernails after they won, I think game 3 or something like that. And so, I don't think we're getting that in Warriors versus Timberwolves. And then obviously, out east, Pacers Bucks, altercations in every game. Everything that happened after game 5 with, John Haliburton running out on the court and Mathurin and, Giannis going at each other, pushing each other back and forth and all that good stuff. So Cavaliers-Pacers feels much more tame than that. It does for now. If the Pacers go up 2-0, game 3 comes back here on Friday night, all of a sudden if things change, that wouldn't be the most surprising thing in the world. But yeah, I don't think Cavaliers-Pacers are going to have as many altercations as Pacers and Bucks did. It's just not. Knicks-Pistons was very tough and very physical. Even with Isaiah Stewart out, there was a lot of pushing and shoving and, a lot of just physicality in that series. Celtics Magic, people accuse the Magic of being dirty, and they're not. They're just a really big, tough, physical team. And I don't think we're getting that in this Knicks and Celtics series. I think we're just going to get a much cleaner version of basketball in all 4 of these conference semifinal series. Like Thunder and Nuggets, Jokic isn't going to be banging with Zubac for 40 minutes a night. That's not going to happen. Things are going to be a little bit easier on him. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is one of the purest scorers in the NBA right now. Timberwolves Warriors, that's probably going to be the most physical series, and I just say that because Draymond Green's playing, and it's him and Rudy Gobert. Come on, it's going to get a little chippy in there at some point. Cavaliers-Pacers probably going to be the least physical series just because of, it's tough to be imposing with your size, and I think it's tough to be physical when the ball moves around as quickly as it does, or as quickly as it's going to in this Pacers and Cavaliers series. Usually, you can be physical when guys drive to the bucket and they're putting the ball on the deck 4 or 5 times. When you watch, the Cavaliers and Pacers, with the exceptions of Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, and Tyrese Haliburton, guys aren't taking more than 3 dribbles. It's not happening. So that's probably going to be our cleanest series, followed by Knicks Celtics. I think that series is going to be pretty clean as well, just because there's a lot of isolation stuff, and I feel like a majority of the physicality happens in these clustered up areas. And with the way that the Knicks and the Celtics like to space the floor, you just don't have 4 guys around the rim like you did in, Bucks Pacers or Celtics Magic. So I think the series overall are going to be much cleaner than they were in round 1. This is something that I will undoubtedly be discussing with the one and only Jared Dubin, who is set to join the show coming up here in about 5 minutes or so. We'll obviously lead talking about Pacers and Cavaliers game 1 last night. Still love that. I still love how the Pacers came out and really owned that game. Very intrigued to see how this Cleveland team that hasn't, been tested yet in these playoffs, which isn't saying much because they've had, they had a tough 7-game series with Orlando last year. They had a tough series with the New York Knicks the year prior to that. So, like, they've been tested in the playoffs before. It'll just be intriguing to see how they respond while also being a pretty heavy favorite in the series. So, Jared Dubin of Last Night in Basketball.com, he is set to join the show when we come back here in about 5 minutes.
Here's Comedians and Sketchers Getting Comfortable, presented by Hands Free Skechers Slip-ins.
Hey, I'm Bobby Slayton, and I'm here with my pal, comedian, and Skechers ambassador, Mr. Howie Mandel.
Why did it take so long to invent something as amazing as slip-ins? I know it seems simple, but it took Skechers to invent a better pair of shoes.
Yep, with Skechers slip-ins, you just step it and go. You don't have to touch your shoes. And by the way, slip-ins are for the whole family, men, women, and kids. In all your favorite Skechers styles, find Skechers slip-ins at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
You know what's better than a limited time deal? An unlimited time deal. That's why the Wendy's $5 biggie bag with a junior bacon cheeseburger, 4-piece nugs, junior hot and crispy fries, and small soft drink is available all the time. Because the best time for fresh, never frozen beef and Applewood smoked bacon is all the time. Duh. I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot. For the best deal of all time, gotta be Wendy's.
Unlimited time does not mean forever. U.S. price and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Alaska, Hawaii, and California via third-party delivery. Fresh beef available in the contiguous U.S., Alaska, and Canada.
Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thanks for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in. Joined now by the one and only Jared Dubin, writer over at lastnightinbasketball.com. Also recently started a podcast called the Double Dribble Podcast. Make sure you go and check that out. I know I will be doing that after the show's over on my drive home, because I like when smart people talk about basketball, and that's why we have Jared on. Jared, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing fine, man. How are you?
Dude, I'm great. Pacers win game one. What was your kind of your thoughts on that game?
Just an unbelievable Tyrese Haliburton game, first and foremost. The game essentially in the palm of his hands for most of the running time. There was a stretch in the third quarter that actually started with two pretty bad plays by him, where he gets a wide open three and then forced a layup over two defenders at the rim that didn't go in. And after that, the Cavs went on their run. But he put a stop to that run by drawing Jared Allen out to the perimeter in isolation and hitting a step-back three. Then he had another one of those isolations against Jared Allen, hit a pull-up. Another one of those isolations against Jared Allen, had sort of a step-through layup. Get 13 assists. I think it was two turnovers maybe, if I'm remembering correctly off the top of my head. But the guy was incredible. He had several really good defensive plays down the stretch in the second half. I was just looking at the numbers earlier. The Cavs put him in more pick and rolls as the defender of the screener in that game than any team did over the course of the entire season. And in the first half, it did not go well for the Pacers. Gave up, like almost 1.5 points per possession on those plays. Second half, down below a point per possession. He just did a much better job on defense in the second half, hanging with Donovan Mitchell, hanging with Ty Jerome. Had, I think, 3 blocks in the second half. The guy was fantastic all game long.
He was great. I was so pleased, especially with the offensive shot selection, because I feel like Haliburton can have these nights where he'll take 15 shots, but like 11 of them are threes, which some nights, like, that's okay, but he hasn't been shooting the ball here as well as of late. So I just appreciate him getting into the lane. I feel like it just opens up so much more for the Pacers offense. And like, I really want to be excited about the win, but like Darius Garland is going to come back here at some point during the series, I'm assuming. How does he change this series?
Pretty dramatically. It's, he is an elite creator. If not on the level of Donovan Mitchell, then pretty close. And things change so much when you have two of those guys out there rather than one. There are so many different weaknesses that you can probe, and there is one less hiding space to have weak defenders out there. Like Tyrese, as well as he played defensively in the second half, he's still, a liability on defense at times. And you have two different guys that can attack him. Or when, let's say you take Max Strus out of the game and you have DeAndre Hunter in there instead, it's not as easy to hide Haliburton because the physicality of that matchup isn't ideal for him. So maybe he has to guard Garland at times, or maybe he has to guard Mitchell. Like, I would imagine he's never going to guard Mitchell, or at least not in a proactive sort of way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it changes their offense so much. Like, as good as they were in that Miami series without him, and as good as they were for, the stretch of the third quarter where they were making their big comeback without him, like, it's just a night and day difference when that guy's on the court.
Joined by Jared Dubin of lastnightinbasketball.com, also host of the Double Dribble podcast. Make sure you go and check that out. I thought one of the things that I found surprising to start game one was the Cavaliers put Jared Allen on Pascal Siakam and they put Evan Mobley on Miles Turner. Because I just kind of figured that the Pacers would run a lot of their screen and roll stuff with whoever Jared Allen was defending. And I would just rather the ball be in Miles Turner's hands as opposed to Siakam's if I'm the Cavs. Were you surprised that the Cavaliers started that way with those matchups on the defensive end of the floor?
Somewhat. I mean, Miles Turner, for the most part, is going to be on the perimeter. And I think you'd rather have Mobley on the perimeter and Allen closer to the basket. So I think it makes a certain degree of sense that way. You're also generally going to get more Haliburton-Turner pick and rolls than Haliburton-Siakam pick and rolls. And I think you'd rather have Mobley defending him in space and less often than Allen defending him in space, which is what we saw happen in the second half.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I didn't feel like they went to that Miles Turner screen and roll very much, which makes sense. I want Evan Mobley as far away from every possession as possible when I'm running offense. And
The guy was unbelievable yesterday too. Like, my God, everywhere on defense.
yeah, he was good. I think that I was talking about this earlier. The pace of the game was so incredibly fast because the Pacers just they get it up the floor so quickly. And Cleveland is obviously very capable of playing at that pace. But if I'm Cleveland, like, wouldn't you want to slow the game down? That way Evan Mobley can just be in more defensive possessions, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a tough balance because the Cavs do want to play fast also. But I think when it gets past a certain point and it's like breakneck speed, that's much more the Pacers' pace. Sorry about that. But that is much more the Pacers' pace than it is the Cavs' pace.
Joined by Jared Dubin of Last Night in Basketball.com, talking about Pacers and Cavs game one last night. I'm not a fan of the whole. I think a few years ago, Jimmy Butler played really well in the playoffs, and he's known to kind of coast through the regular season. And so we have just deemed him playoff Jimmy. And now if anyone has like a kind of good playoff game, we just call them playoff whoever. And
I hate it.
I do
so
too.
much.
I do too. But I think I'm okay with playoff Nembhard being a thing. What have you made of him playing in the playoffs so far?
We might have to extend that to playoff Neesmith as well. Those guys are both, I think the better term for it is the one that Draymond Green has used, where, they're 82-game players, regular season players, and they're 16-game players, guys whose games make sense for the playoffs. I think both of those guys are 16-game players.
What do you, if you had to like lay out characteristics of 16-game players, what do you think like the top three would be?
Just not being able to be played off the court on one end or the other, I think, is the biggest thing. Like, there are so many guys that are good players but have a defined weakness that allows them to be exploited on one end of the court or the other, and it makes them less effective in playoff settings where you're able to game plan in a more bespoke way than you are during the regular season. And like, if you have a guard or a wing who is a non-shooter, the opposing team is going to take advantage of that on essentially every trip down the court. If you have a big man or a point guard who is a defensive liability, the opposing team is going to put that guy in pick and rolls and switches every trip down the court. Like we saw the Cavs try to do it to Haliburton yesterday. And they did it throughout the series in Miami against Tyler Hero, and they couldn't stop talking about it. We're going to see it throughout this next Celtics series. That Boston is going to put Karl Towns and Jalen Brunson in pick and rolls every single trip down the court, and we're going to see Boston ignore Josh Hart entirely on the opposite side of the court on offense. And this is something that we've talked about before, where Boston doesn't have guys like that, and that's why that's the best team in the East. Yeah,
I totally agree, and I'm glad that you brought up Boston and New York, because I do want to talk about that series. But before we do, I felt like the theme of these round one series this year was like toughness and physicality and defense, and things got a little chippy. I don't think that we're going to see that in round two. Just looking at all these matchups, I think every team left plays a relatively clean style. What do you think the theme of all of these kind of round two series are going to be?
I think it's going to be different, obviously, for all of them. Like, playoff series are all their own organism, and they're so heavily dependent on what the matchup is. Like, I don't know what we saw in the Miami-Cleveland series that it was all about, physicality and whatnot. That series was all about Miami absolutely cannot stop this Cleveland offense. And I think we could see something similar, because I think both Cleveland and Indiana could struggle to get stops against two elite offenses. And this might just be more about offensive execution and which team can get a series of stops for like a few possessions here and there, rather than it being, a rock fight like Golden State, Houston, or, the Knicks against the Pistons.
Yeah, and just to your point, I mean, the Cavaliers, they didn't score in the final 2 minutes of that first quarter. And when you look at the whole arc of the game, like, that's a very big 2-minute stretch, because like you said, like both of these teams offensively are so good. Before the series started, I took Cleveland in 7. What was your kind of prediction for the series before yesterday?
I was sort of vacillating between Cleveland in 5 and Cleveland in 7 because I feel like they did have the advantages. I obviously didn't know whether or not Darius Garland was going to be back. So I guess at that point, if I had known Garland wasn't going to be back, then I probably would have gone with Cleveland in 7.
Okay, sounds good. What about the other series? Obviously, your Knicks play tonight. I think that game's at 7:30, 7 somewhere around there. I like
7.
Boston in 5. What are kind of your thoughts on the series?
Yeah, I'm also on Boston in 5. Away a stupid game, even when they should sweep a series. See also the series that they just had against the Magic. The Knicks are always going to have a liability on the court on one end or the other, at least one, whether it's, Brunson, Towns, Hart, Mitchell Robinson, whoever it is. The Celtics are never going to put one out there. The Celtics have all of the matchup advantages. Basically, the only reason to think that it's going to be a competitive series is because I'm a Knicks fan, and I just don't let that overweigh my, the logic in my brain that tells me the Celtics are a better team with all of the matchup advantages, and it shouldn't be that competitive of a series if the Celtics are on their game, which they should be.
Joined by Jared Dubin, who covers the NBA over at Last Night in Basketball.com. Also recently started a podcast called Double Dribble. Make sure you go and check that out. Yeah, that's how I feel about it. And we're working through. The thing about the Knicks that you look at the starting lineup, and the starting lineup is fantastic. There's obviously a lack of depth. Is that the biggest thing kind of keeping them from being on Boston's level? Do they just not have enough options?
Somewhat. I mean, they really only have 1.5 trustworthy bench players, depending on how Deuce McBride and Mitchell Robinson are playing. You might get one of those guys on a given night. Some nights you might get both of them that are reliable. Some of it is just a lack of flexibility and creativity on both sides of the court, which, when you have an undermanned team that Tom Thibodeau is getting more out of than the sum of its parts, you can deal with that more than when you have a team where, the starting lineup is incredibly talented, but it did not play to the level of its talent throughout the season. It only outscored their opponents by 4 points per 100 possessions or something along those lines throughout the regular season. And over the second half of the year, they were in the negative. Even accounting for the stretch that Jalen Brunson missed. It just was not as good as it should have been. And I think some of that owes to the lack of creativity and the lack of problem solving I think some of that is on Tibbs and some of it is on the guys on the court too. They did not do a good job of dealing with the way that teams were sort of presenting problems to them when they were guarding Towns with wings and they were guarding Hart with centers and ignoring him to try to cut off the spacing. And they did not make quick enough decisions when teams sort of try to bait them into playing iso ball, and it did not work out well for them.
Did it bother you in that series against the Pistons, the lack of Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns screen and rolls? And for me, that bothered me. But I think the thing that really had me questioning was you got Tobias Harris on Karl Anthony Towns. Can we not just let this dude post up and get a layup a couple times? What did you kind of think of the offensive game plan in that series? Because I think it speaks to what you were talking about right there.
It bothered me for months, not just in that series. I mean, there's not much to say. They abandoned the best thing about their offense rather than trying to find creative solutions against defensive matchups. One of Tibbs's big things is always that the game will tell you what to do. And I think he takes that to too much of an extreme where sometimes you should tell the game what to do rather than the other way around. You got to press the advantages that you have and make the opposing team react to you rather than the other way around. And they don't do that often enough.
That makes sense. Joined by Jared Dubin, who covers the NBA over at Last Night in Basketball.com. Also has a new podcast called Double Dribble. Make sure you go and check that out. I also like the Thunder over the Nuggets in 5. I think this is a really tough series for Jamal Murray, and it's tough for the Nuggets to beat anyone if Jamal Murray isn't playing well. I think that the Thunder overwhelmed them over the course of those 5 games. What are your thoughts on that series?
Yeah, I think it should be. I feel similarly to this series that I felt about the Indiana-Milwaukee series in the first round, where I feel like they should take it in 5, but I have too much respect for Jokic in the same way that I did for Giannis and picked it in 6 when I probably, based on the result, should have just taken it in 5. I feel very similarly about this series. Like, I think it should be on the shorter side just because Oklahoma City is that good. And despite the fact that Jokic is there, the Nuggets just don't have enough, I don't think, on either end to make it super competitive. But I'm going to give Jokic the benefit of the doubt is basically where I fall down.
Yeah, that's if there's anyone you want to give the benefit of the doubt to, it's that guy. I read this tweet a couple weeks ago, and I don't know how I feel about it, but I would like your thoughts. Someone made a comment, I forget who, about how they feel like it is less impactful than ever to have the best player in a playoff series. Do you kind of see that or no?
I think I'd have to understand the context of what they were trying to say with that.
I think the idea is just like the overall talent level of the NBA is so much greater than what it used to be, like guys 1 through 8, that now like having the best player in a series doesn't just automatically mean that you're going to win the series like it did, 10, 15, or 20 years ago.
I could buy it. I mean, I think that most of the time the team that has the best player probably still does win the series because that team is probably going to be better. There are just certain teams out. Like, I think we happen to have 2 of the, 5 or so best guys that happen to be on teams right now that don't meet the level of their talents and look like one of them already lost and one of them looks like it's probably going to lose in this round. But some of that has to do with the new CBA and the atrophying of the supporting cast around those guys. So I would say I'm of multiple minds about it.
Joined by Jared Dubin of lastnightinbasketball.com, also host of the Double Dribble podcast. I don't know who to pick in Warriors versus Timberwolves. Like, I know that on paper I should 1,000% take the Wolves. They're deeper, they're more athletic. Anthony Edwards he's gotten so much better from last year to this year. But at the same time, like, it's Steph, it's Jimmy Butler, it's Draymond Green. They just kind of seem to find ways to win. What are your thoughts on that series?
Yeah, I'm on the Wolves for that series. I think that it actually somewhat reminds me, at least, of the previous series, which I completely misread with the Wolves against the Lakers, where Minnesota's size and athleticism advantage should play up a lot. In this series, we just saw the same thing happen against Houston for Golden State, but Minnesota's offense is significantly better, not just because of Anthony Edwards, but even Julius Randle had a great series. They can bring shooting onto the court with a bunch of different guys, and they have, not necessarily as elite of an option as Amen Thompson, but they have a whole bunch of different options that they can try against Steph, whether it's Jalen McDaniels or Anthony Edwards or Nickeil Alexander-Walker. It could just throw so many different combinations of things at Golden State. And then Draymond is going to get suspended. Like,
I'm sorry, that was funny.
He's 2 flagrant fouls away from a suspension in a series where he's about to play against Rudy Gobert. Like, he is going to get suspended.
Probably. Yeah, that's a great point. I'm not gonna argue that one. Yeah, you're probably right there, and that'll cost him a game. Joined by Jared Dubin of lastnightinbasketball.com, just talking about the playoffs. You watched Julius Randle play in New York for a long time. This is such a mean question, but how much faith do you have in him to play like back-to-back great series? Because he was awesome against the Lakers, but I just watching Julius Randle, I feel like he's got some like Russell Westbrook tendencies sometimes where he can try to do a little bit too much. How confident are you in him kind of continuing the great play that he had against the Lakers?
He absolutely does have some Russell Westbrookian tendencies. I would say I'm sort of cautiously optimistic in him being able to replicate what he did against the Lakers. Obviously, Golden State is a significantly better defensive team. I think he's likely to see a fair amount of either Draymond Green or Jimmy Butler, which obviously makes things significantly more difficult as well. I think the good news for the Wolves is that if they don't get the version of Randall that they got against the Lakers, they have options. And Chris Finch laid the groundwork throughout the regular season. Sometimes, basically, anybody other than Anthony Edwards occasionally might not close the game. He laid the groundwork for that throughout the entire season. Sometimes Mike Conley wouldn't close. Sometimes Jaden McDaniels wouldn't close. Sometimes Gobert or Randall wouldn't close. And that's fine with those guys. They've got 8 different guys, even 9 sometimes if you want to, include Alexander Walker. They've got a bunch of different guys that could close games. And they're okay no matter which of those guys is on the court based on the matchup and based on who's playing well. And they can get away without the perfect series that Randall played in round 1.
I totally agree. I love Naz Reid. That's a guy who they've had close games a lot. I'm very intrigued to see how much they play him at the 5 to match kind of the Warriors going small, because I don't know. I really like Naz Reid at the 5. That series is going to be a lot of fun. Last thing for you, Jared, and I'll let you go. I'm going to go ahead and let you get in front of what's going to be probably the biggest NBA offseason topic this summer. What should the Rockets do after this really hard-fought 7-game series?
Yeah, I would be going after the best creators out there. We saw throughout the series, the biggest issue is that they just cannot create offense in the half court. So you got to go after the best guys available that are able to do that. To me, that's the very obvious thing to do. They have a ton of assets to be able to go after pretty much anybody they want. They've got, even if they want to, bring back Fred VanVleet on this crazy expensive team option, which is probably, more than he's worth. Well, then he could be the big salary guy in one of those trades with, Cam Whitmore, or Reed Shepherd, or Tari Eason, Jabari Smith. Go after the best creators out there and don't give up on Ben Thompson.
Especially the last part. He was awesome last night.
Oh my God. He's my favorite player in the league. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
He's my favorite player in the league to watch.
The moment in the second half, before he hurt his calf, where he's like, you know what? Forget this. I'm going to the rim, and I'm going to get there whenever I want because I'm the most athletic dude in the league. He was awesome last night. Do not give him up. I hope Giannis is available, because if I'm Houston, no issue with mortgaging the future for Giannis. But if it's Kevin Durant and you got to give up 4 or 5 first-round picks for him, I'm a little more cautious of that. What do you kind of think about that?
Yeah, I'm not into giving up the farm for KD, as good as KD is. If it's Giannis, you got to make sure you get a lot more shooters than you currently have, which is 0. So, yeah, Devin Booker, another one, and Phoenix maybe could get tempted by the return of a lot of its draft picks, which obviously are some of the most valuable out there in the league right now. Yeah. I'd be going after anybody I could get.
Is there an off-the-radar guy who they might go after?
If they're off the radar, I probably wouldn't know, right?
That's fair. That's a great point. Jared, thanks for your time, man. As always, you were great. As I said, I'm going to be listening to Double Dribble on my way home, and I can't wait to listen. Thanks, man.
Thanks for having me, man. Have a good day.
You got it. That is Jared Dubin. Check out his new podcast, Double Dribble, where he covers the NBA. Really smart guy. Make sure you go read his stuff as well over at lastnightinbasketball.com. When we come back here in about 4 minutes, Tyrese Haliburton. What a perfect game 1. We'll talk about it, and I got some audio from Coach Carlisle and Tyrese as well.
The best takes. Maybe. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hopefully you had a nice weekend. Hopefully you enjoyed that Game 1 Pacers win over the Cleveland Cavaliers last night. Great game. So much fun to watch. Jeez. Thanks for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy's Sports Ticket, if you want to head over there and subscribe. Maybe you're watching on Twitter, _ Jonathan Smith, if you want to follow me there. Or maybe you're listening via that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. And as always, if you want a little bit more from me, you can go check out the My Take Is YouTube page. Tyrese Haliburton, awesome in Game 1 over the Cleveland Cavaliers yesterday. The dude played the perfect game. I mean, just amazing. 22 points, 13 assists, 3 blocks, 1 steal. And I love the way that he did it. He got into the lane a lot. He hit some mid-range jumpers early. You know, he took 15 shots. Only 6 of them are threes. You know, and when he's scoring from all 3 levels like he was, he scored from the mid-range. He scored at the rim. Obviously, he made 2 threes. That is the best version of Tyrese Haliburton. And the Pacers are now 27-3 when he scores 20 points or more. That is the magic number. And he got there in Game 1. He was aggressive from the jump. 7 points in the first quarter. Made it look easy. Cavaliers don't have anyone who can guard him. Max Strus probably did the best job, but he wasn't some, big-time lockdown defender on Haliburton. Like they don't have really a good option for him. They don't. So we'll kind of see how the Cavaliers adjust to him here in Game 2 coming up tomorrow night, but they don't have a good option for him. I did find it interesting that the Cavaliers put Jared Allen on Pascal Siakam and Evan Mobley on Miles Turner. That allowed the Pacers to run their screen and roll with Siakam and Haliburton. Because, look, if you have the option between going at Jared Allen or Evan Mobley, you're going to go at Jared Allen. Okay? And that's, not because Jared Allen's not a good defender. It's because you don't want to go at the defensive player of the year in Evan Mobley. So, whenever the Cavaliers decided to switch, the Haliburton did a great job of creating with Jared Allen on him. He had a big time step back 3 over Jared Allen with about 6 minutes left to go in that fourth quarter. He had the weird spinning up and under layup as well. That was big. I thought he did a good job finding Siakam as well. He found him open for 3 a few times. So I really like that. Like, the Cavaliers want to continue to put Evan Mobley on Miles Turner, please do that. Please. That would be lovely. That would be lovely. So that went well. He was just really good. He was so good on both ends of the floor. And here is Coach Carlisle discussing just how great this series is going to be and Tyrese Haliburton's impact in that first game.
Well, I mean, these teams are great teams to watch because they're defined by their balance. And so, Cleveland's had, situations all year where they've had 6-7 guys consistently in double figures. They needed it to have their season. We needed it to get where we got to. And so it's one of the things that I think makes this a good series to watch for basketball purists. It's 2 unselfish teams. And then look, Ty, at the end of the game, he made some huge plays. I mean, the first 3 that he hit on Allen, it's a tough shot, it's contested, but he makes it. And then, I don't remember the exact sequence, but then the step through scoop was a big play. But the bigger plays were the 2 stops that he was able to get one-on-one. And, those were enormous plays.
Coach Carlisle right there talking about just both teams and how important it's going to be for their depth to show up, because both teams need their depth to be who they are. But he also discussed Tyrese Haliburton and just how awesome he was. Because, yes, he was great offensively and at getting to the rim and just getting into the lane and then kicking out to shooters. And, Aaron Nesmith made shots and Siakam made shots and Andrew Nembhard made shots. And it was great. In addition to that, Tyrese Haliburton played the best defense I've ever seen him play. He was amazing. He got switched onto Donovan Mitchell a few times and just competed his butt off just to get a contest. He had 3 blocks. Okay, 2 of them came on Ty Jerome, who kept trying to go at him, but Tyrese Haliburton held up. Okay, 2 of his 3 blocks came on Ty Jerome in that fourth quarter. The third one came on Max Strus, when, he had an open catch and shoot 3, but Tyrese Haliburton, 6'6", long, got out there and he got a hand on it, right? He was great on the offensive end of the floor. And that is probably going to be the focal point of the discussion around Haliburton. But he also competed his butt off on the defensive end of the floor. He's much improved on that side of the ball. I've talked about that quite a bit this year. Here was Tyrese Haliburton talking about his defense in that fourth quarter.
Well, yeah, I mean, we knew they were going to go to that at the end of the game, as a lot of teams do, just trying to be solid and help the team win. Obviously, Coach Carlisle and the staff have really been on me to, take a step on that end of the floor. And, I'm just trying to be solid, and they got a lot of great players, a lot of great one-on-one guys. So I'm just trying to make it tough and just be solid. That's my biggest thing, is just trying to be solid, not gamble, not foul if I don't have to, and just trying to be solid. But our coaching staff did a great job of challenging me, especially down the stretch there in the game. They knew what was coming, and I just tried to respond the best way I could. But it's just one game, so we're gonna have to be ready to respond in a couple days.
Tyrese Haliburton right there, very calm, very cool, very, very collected, talking about how he knew that the Cavaliers were going to go at him down the stretch, as most teams do. Okay, and that's going to continue to happen in this series. And if the Pacers advance to play the Boston Celtics, that's right. I'm already writing the Knicks off. They don't stand a chance against Boston unless someone gets hurt. He's going to have to deal with that against Boston as well. But look, if he defends the way that he did last night, the Pacers are going to have a great chance to win this series, because like that is the weak point of this Pacers defense. It is Tyrese Haliburton. Okay, now he is clearly improved on that side of the ball. Hopefully we continue to see that improvement throughout the series, because they're going to continue to isolate him and put him in screen and roll. As our guy Jared Dubin said, during that interview, the Cavaliers put Tyrese Haliburton in screen and roll more than any other game this year, playoffs and regular season. And he, first half struggled a little bit. Second half, though, much, much better. Okay, he was the guy that the Pacers needed him to be, not only on offense, but also on defense. Tyrese Haliburton was the best player on the floor last night. Donovan Mitchell was good. Okay, he scored 33. The issue, took him 30 shots to get there. Tyrese Haliburton was much more efficient, better defensively than Donovan Mitchell was, and I thought he got his teammates easier shots. I think Alex Golden had the number. Let me see if I can pull it up here. I believe it's something like, Tyrese Haliburton generated 54 points off of his assists. 34 points off of his assists. That's very different than 54. He generated 34 points off of his assists, plus his, the 22 points that he scored. He was just incredibly impactful, and hopefully that continues, because if he continues to be the best player in this series, then Pacers are going to have a great chance to win and advance to the Eastern Conference Finals for the second year in a row. Tyrese Haliburton wasn't the only player who played great last night. Andrew Nembhard was good. I think Pascal Siakam is going to have a really big series as well. I can't wait. I had so much fun watching the game last night, and I know it's going to continue just because of the style that both of these teams play. More thoughts on game one when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
In honor of Indy's great tradition, Carter's My Plumber presents the Carter 500 Hot Water Marathon. Now through May 31st, call Carter's My Plumber and get a $500 instant discount on our exclusive Allegiant series. A quality Bradford white water heater, American strong and built to be the best. Get hot water today and save $500 during the Carter 500 Marathon. From Indy's hot water experts, Carter's My Plumber.
Carter'sMyPlumber.com.
If it's in today's sports world, it's here. The real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome back to the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Hopefully you've had a nice weekend. Hopefully the start of your week is going well. Thanks for tuning into the show, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket, if you want to head over there and subscribe. Maybe you're watching on Twitter, _ Jonathan Smith, if you want to follow me there. And you can also listen via the Indy Sports Ticket app, where you can also listen to the Dan Dockett Show from noon to 3. And as always, if you want more from me, check me out. My Take Is on YouTube. Anyway, Pacers 1-0 lead over Cleveland. For the game itself, it just felt like a Pacer game, man. Up and down, moving the basketball, pacing the half court, pacing the full court. It was amazing. After both makes and misses, the Pacers got the ball up the floor so quickly. Like, they had Miles Turner bringing the ball up a couple times in the name of making sure that they played with pace. It was awesome to see. Okay, and part of that obviously had to do with, the Cavaliers just immediately attaching themselves to Tyrese Haliburton whenever the Pacers went to inbound the basketball. Like, that to me was the biggest thing that jumped out. The breakneck pace of the game, because the Cavaliers are clearly capable of playing at that fast of a pace. Okay, the Pacers were 5th in the NBA in pace this year. The Cavaliers were 7th. With that being said, I don't think that the Cavaliers want to play as fast as they did in game 1. The Cavaliers' half-court offense is better than the Pacers. It was the number 1 offense in the NBA for a reason. They're probably going to be better in the half-court than the Pacers are. Okay? And so I think, offensively, I don't think it matters for Cleveland one way or the other. I think they find a way to score. Where it matters is for the Cleveland's defense. The Cavaliers have the defensive player of the year in Evan Mobley. And when the game is played as fast as it was during game one, he doesn't get to be as impactful. Now, obviously, like in the half court, he played very well, but there were multiple possessions where the Pacers are putting the ball in the bucket while Evan Mobley hasn't even crossed half court yet. And it's not an Evan Mobley being lazy thing. It's a crap, the Pacers are already up the floor kind of thing. And so, obviously, it's tough for him to be as impactful defensively as he can be if he hasn't even crossed half court yet. So I think that if the games continue to be played at that pace, then the Pacers are going to continue to have great chances to win these games. Defensively, I thought we learned quite a bit about how the Pacers view some of these Cleveland Cavalier players. They clearly did not mind Evan Mobley or Isaac Okoro shooting threes. I know the Pacers gave up 70 paint points, but I think that's part of the strategy of playing against Cleveland because Cleveland was the best three-point shooting team in the NBA this year. Like, they got them up at a very high rate, and they made a lot of them. And so when you're playing them, yes, obviously teams want layups and things, but Cleveland, they want to take threes. The Pacers held Cleveland under, their average of three-pointers taken per game this season. During the regular season, they were at 42. During the postseason, those 4 games against Miami, they averaged 45 threes taken per game. They only took 38 against the Pacers. And if they can keep that number down like they did in game 1, then that is a good thing, even if you're giving up some more interior scoring. Okay. So I really felt like the only guys for Cleveland who were able to consistently get up threes were Donovan Mitchell and Max Strus. Max Strus took 8, Donovan Mitchell took 11, but they were tough. Like Max Strus didn't have very many threes where he just stepped into it and shot it. Donovan Mitchell, 8 of his 11 threes attempted came off the dribble, which, Donovan Mitchell is an incredible player. He's probably not going to shoot 1 of 11 from 3 again. Okay. But it's harder to shoot well from 3 when everything you're taking is off the bounce, whether it's a pull up or a step back. So, that just makes it tougher. So the Pacers, I thought their closeouts were really good. I like how they went small to close that second quarter. They had a lot of success doing that. They played Obi Toppin and Pascal Siakam at the 4 and the 5. They kept the pace up. Both of those guys are very solid rebounders. I thought it was a very nice counter to the Cavaliers taking Jarrett Allen off the floor and playing Evan Mobley at the 5. I think Pascal Siakam is going to be really good in this series. I know that, he was 6 of 15 from the floor, but he's going to get a lot of good looks. And I think he's just going to have more energy. He's not having to defend Giannis for 40 minutes. And, that's a chore. And look, it's not easy to defend Evan Mobley either, who had a really good game 1. He had 20 on 9 of 13 shooting. So that's that's not a cakewalk, but defending Giannis it's just more physically taxing because that dude's just running through your chest for 40 minutes a night. Whereas Evan Mobley has a little more finesse to his game than Giannis does. So I think that'll be less draining for Pascal Siakam on the defensive end of the floor. And the Cavaliers keep wanting to put Jarrett Allen on Pascal Siakam, then they're going to continue to run a lot of Siakam and Haliburton screen and roll. When that happens, Siakam's going to have opportunities to, play make out of the short roll. If they switch, he's going to have opportunities to post up, Ty Jerome or Donovan Mitchell or Darius Garland. So I think he's going to have a really big series. I thought he got a lot of good looks in game 1. He just didn't make them. He was 6 of 15 from the floor, which that's not a terrible shooting night, but we've seen Siakam shoot the ball better than that, given the looks that he got. I thought everyone for the Pacers played well offensively. Obviously, Tyrese Haliburton being, the head of that snake. Pacers had 6 guys in double figures. Obi Toppin and TJ McConnell each also had 7. So the bench was good. It was. And, Coach Carlisle talked about it earlier in this clip that I played here. I'll play it again because I can do that. Here's Coach Carlisle talking about both teams and the reliance on their benches.
Well, these teams are great teams to watch because they're defined by their balance. And so, Cleveland's had situations all year where they've had 6, 7 guys consistently in double figures. They needed it to have their season. We needed it to get where we got to. And so it's one of the things that I think makes this a good series to watch for basketball purists. It's 2 unselfish teams.
Coach Carlisle right there talking about the importance of each of these teams' bench. Because like the Pacers, like they need that production. Like they needed those 11 points from Mathurin off the bench, who was really good, by the way. They needed the 7 from McConnell. They needed the 7 from Obi Toppin. For the Cavaliers, like they rely on Ty Jerome and DeAndre Hunter to come in off the bench and to continue to be forces on offense. So the bench play in this series is going to be really important. I thought both benches played well last night. Yeah, and that's going to be something that we need to continue to monitor in terms of who's going to win this series. I thought game 1 was weird for a couple of different reasons. One, the Pacers turned the ball over 17 times. I don't think that's going to happen again. That led to the Cavaliers winning the turnover battle by 9. I don't think that the discrepancy between those two teams is going to happen anymore. In the rest of this series, the Pacers also made 10 more threes than the Cavaliers. Once again, the Cavaliers are the best three-point shooting team in the NBA this year. And so I doubt that the Pacers are going to make 10 more threes than Cleveland going forward. Now, if that continues to happen, then, sweet, bust out the brooms. But it's probably not. I think that this series is going to be fantastic. Hopefully, Andrew Nembhard continues to be as good as he was last night. This dude just shows up in big games, man. It's awesome. He did a good job of running the offense. The Cavaliers didn't let Tyrese Haliburton push the ball up the floor after makes. Like the ball went through the net, and just the closest guy to Haliburton just like jumped on him. And they're like, you're not giving the ball to this dude, and you're not sprinting it up the floor. And then Andrew Nembhard was like, yeah, we are. And he'd take it, and he would just go. And, there's a guy who played a lot of point guard in college. So, like, he's more than capable of bringing the ball up the floor and creating for guys. He didn't shoot the ball very well from 3 during the regular season, only 29%, but 5 of 6 from 3 last night, 7 of 10 from the floor overall. Every time the Pacers needed something good to happen, he seemed to have an impact on it, especially on the defensive end of the floor. I thought he did a really good job defending Donovan Mitchell. Yes, he scored 33 points, but it took him 30 shots to get there. That's not good. He was only 1 of 11 from 3. Eddie White texted me earlier during the show to give me some of these numbers. I mean, that was Donovan Mitchell's worst three-point shooting night of his career. On nights where he'd taken 10 threes or more, and it was his worst playoff three-point shooting night in his career as well. So that is a testament to Andrew Nembhard and the fact that he's one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA. And he showed last night why he is that. When Darius Garland comes back, it's really going to change this series because Darius Garland's the third best player on that team, a guy who can get his own shot and can also create for others. It's a guy that you can lean on when Donovan Mitchell's 1 of 11 from 3. So we'll see how it goes. I'm intrigued to see how the Pacers kind of shift their defense when Darius Garland comes back, because that'll obviously have a very large impact on the series. This series is fun. I had a blast watching game 1. Basketball being played in a way that I think a lot of people enjoy. There wasn't a lot of isolation. The ball moved a lot, with the exception of Haliburton, Donovan Mitchell, and Darius Garland. Most of the guys in this series aren't going to take more than 3 dribbles. They're going to catch and shoot, or they're going to catch and attack a closeout. That is the majority of what these guys are going to do. Andrew Nembhard, he'll do a little bit more than that. But like that's what we're in for. And it's good. It's high quality basketball. The game is fast paced. There's a lot of offense. Both of these teams play together. It's beautiful. And it's just a ton of fun. So I can't wait. Game 2 tomorrow night. If Darius Garland doesn't play, Pacers need to grab that one as well. It's going to be an incredibly hard fought series. It's going to be just extremely close. And I can't wait. It's going to be a blast. Game 2 tomorrow night is going to be tough. The Pacers are 9.5 point underdogs. It's a bit rich for me. it's a bit rich for my blood. Okay. It is. And yeah, it's great. It's great. So thank you for taking the time out of your day to tune in to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. The Dan Dockett Show comes your way next. Should be a typical Monday. Todd Leary and Kent Sterling for the Power Hour at 2 o'clock. And I'll be back on the air tomorrow, 10 to noon, to get you ready for game 2 of Pacers and Cavaliers. Going to be a great game. It's going to be a great series. Hopefully it's fast. Hopefully it's a Pacers sweep, and every game looks like what we saw last night. If you want more from me, go check out the My Take Is YouTube page where I do just a little bit of extra stuff. I promise if you go check it out, you will enjoy it. You'll also enjoy the Dan Dockett Show, which comes your way here in about 5 minutes. I'll talk to you again tomorrow starting at 10 a.m.